Good morning and thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast. A beautiful Monday morning. I'm Ibrahim Sheet and I'm joined by, guess who is here?
Good morning, Ibrahim. It's good to be back here.
Good to be back.
Very interesting headlines,
So
did
you enjoy?
Well, it was great to actually take a few steps out of Nigeria, but back, of course.
Oh, nice. It's good to have you back, Olamide. Let's get cracking this morning. You know, just within the South of Africa, Ghana's presidential election has indeed taken a decisive turn, with former President John Dramani Mahama emerging victorious. His main opponent, Vice President Mahamudu Bawumia, has conceded defeat, effectively sealing Mahama's win. Mr. Mahama, who previously served as president from 2012 to 2017, will be returning to the highest office in the land. This election was marked by a crowded field of candidates with 13 contenders vying for the presidency. However, it was ultimately a two-horse race between Mahama and Bawumia. It's worth noting that the election process was not without its challenges. The Ghana Freedom Party's candidate, Akwa Donkor, passed away on October the 28th, 2024, and the party was unable to replace her in time. So joining us via Zoom is a journalist with Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Murtala Isa. Thank you so much for joining us, Isa. It's good to have you. And I'll say congratulations to you all over there in Ghana, for making this decision. Now Ghana has decided. Talk to us about the uniqueness of this Ghana election and how the new president was elected.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. It's one of the historic moments in Ghana's elections. It is the first time that an opposition figure is conceding so early because it took just within 24 hours for flag bearer of the NPP and Vice President of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, to come out and concede at such an early stage. As we speak, it's been nearly 48 hours now since the first ballot was cast. However, the Electoral Commission is yet to declare results. It is still trickling in bit by bit. It's been very, very slow in terms of the results coming in. It's been very, very slow from the side of the Electoral Commission. However, political parties have been able to sort of put together their own results, and that is what has resulted in Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and flag bearer conceding defeat. John Dramani Mahama himself is yet to openly declare himself winner, but his party has organized several press conferences prior to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's concession to say that they have won. The NDC, National Democratic Congress, led by John Dramani Mahama, are not only claiming the presidency, they are also claiming the parliamentary seats with an absolute majority. As we speak, stands now 276 parliamentary seats. As we speak, the NDC has over 180, and that this gives them absolute majority in parliament. Now, let's put this into perspective. In the last election in 2020, Ghana had a hung parliament where both the NPP and NDC had 137 MPs each. And this created some interesting moments in parliament. There was one independent candidate who originally came from the NPP and then went independent. There were occasions where he sided with the NPP in coming out with policies and voting. But towards the last few weeks, Ghana has been hanging, Ghana's parliament has been hanging. There have been some issues. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumadi Bagwen, had to just put parliament on hold.
Right, so many have said, the results that we are seeing was driven largely by a high level of dissatisfaction, public dissatisfaction, and also a need to change the economic situation in the society at this time. So talk to us about what was done differently in this election. I want to believe that other African countries are also looking into, these to also change the tide of what we've seen in Africa in the past years. What has been done differently in this election? It's not every time we have a former president come back after 8 years.
Yes, it's the first time a former president is returning. And yesterday we spoke with people who said that it is a huge opportunity for John Dramani Mahama because messiahs rarely return. I'm yet to see somewhere where a messiah, a so-called messiah, has returned. They are calling him a messiah, and he is the first person to get this opportunity to correct the wrongs that that happened during his tenure as the president of Ghana. John Dramani Mahama came in as president following the death of his former boss, John Evans Atamil. So Mahama enjoyed some 6 months of presidency in which he wasn't elected. He became president because of the death of the sitting president and then sought re-election for 4 terms, 4 years. Unfortunately, there was large and widespread dissatisfaction with his ruling, especially in terms of corruption and other issues. And that was what ushered in President Akufo-Addo. As we speak, there is serious dissatisfaction with the ruling government led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who conceded defeat in 3 days ago's election, is just a victim of that widespread dissatisfaction with the ruling government. Ibrahim will remember when we met in London, I kept on repeating the fact that Ghana's press freedom index had sunk. It is one of the false lines that the civil society organizations and the media have used against this government, that they have narrowed down civil space. Governance has not been so well as we have experienced in the past. There's widespread corruption or perceived corruption, economic crisis all over the place. Now, one of the other things is that if you've been following the news in Ghana, there are many pensioners who have lost their funds and investment as a result of what they call the head cutting that took place in Ghana following COVID and the collapsing of many banks in this country. And so there is totally widespread dissatisfaction with the ruling government. And that is what has ushered in John Dramani Mahama for the second time. Many people will say that in Ghana, the elections are between the NDC and the NPP. And there's no third, what's the name, alternative.
Right, no third first.
Maybe not necessarily because of John Mahama's message, but because of the widespread dissatisfaction with the current government.
Okay, so it's just more like between the devil and the deep blue sea, you know, for the Ghanaians. But because if you look at the first coming of John Dramani Mahama, you know, it was actually, there was economic turmoil, you know, it was dwindled, the economy dwindled with falling global prices on Ghana's primary exports, increasing debts, power outages, increasing costs associated with public wage. And there was also power shortages which affected the country, and that earned the now returned president, what's it called? The pseudonym, Mr. Dumso. I think you will say that better in tweet, exactly in tweet language, meaning that off and on. So how do you think is come back now as the president will definitely impact on, you know, Ghana's failing economy, as you've said?
Ibrahim, I was with John Dramani Mahama at Bole where he voted, and I put this question to him that what should we expect in his second coming? The belief is that he is coming to correct the wrongs of the past. One of the challenges that leaders in Ghana, and I want to believe across Africa, often face is that tendency to go back to the people and seek re-election and plead with them to vote. So the first thing is usually a situation where they are not able to take certain disciplinary actions because they will be seeking re-election and will be needing the support of party people. It is usually in the second term that they are able to enforce some discipline in the rank and file of their appointees. But Mahama is coming in for the second time. He will not have the mandate to go again. And so there are people who are looking at this as a very positive. Can you hear me?
Yes, carry on. Carry on, we can hear you.
Yeah, so for the second term, he will not come back to seek re-election. And so he has the opportunity to exert discipline from day one within the rank and file of his appointees. He doesn't need any of them to become a president again. There are those who are also of the argument that presenting John Dramani Mahama with a second opportunity where he will not come back to account to the people and seek re-election could actually affect Ghana in a negative sense, because maybe because he is coming in and knows that I will come back to you to seek re-election, he will be a bit cautious in his dealings. He will be a bit cautious with corruption and governance. But if the person is coming and knows very well that I'm not going back to these people to seek re-election, they can decide to use absolute power. Ghana, the executive has so much power. The president has so much power, basically with the capacity to hire and fire anybody at all in this country. And yesterday, a civil society person told me, if the president elect is not touched by God, he may actually take this absolute power and run down the country in a negative sense. But we live to see what this implies for the NDC. If you ask me, with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia's concession speech yesterday, he has already laid the grounds for a comeback, because the latter part of his speech, he indicated that there's the need for them to unite and rebuild. And this is an indication that he's coming back. And so even though John Mahama will not be seeking re-election because he's barred by the Constitution, the NDC as a party will need to perform extremely well to be able to beat Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia for the second time. And so they cannot take the people for granted, Ibrahim.
Absolutely.
And how Dr. Bawumia was able to, concede victory even before the election was announced is another high point of this election, which is against what we've seen mostly in Africa. So many persons are also comparing it to the United States election, considering Mahama's position coming in as the second president for the second time. But let's talk about how this election itself, with Ghanaians, so to speak, taking back power for themselves, and how this is likely to impact, Africa, other nations within the continent in terms of security, economy, and also governance.
Obviously, Ghana is a hub of democracy. I was speaking with this Zimbabwean who came here for election observation, and he said in Ghana he can see a harvest of democracy. These are his words. You take Ghana out, Nigeria, obviously, with its size and population, you take these two countries out of Africa, and it appears that the continent does not exist. Or so Ghanaians and Nigerians want to believe, that without these two, the continent is incomplete and they cannot exist on its own. They are taking leadership positions across the continent. We talk about Ghana, very much like Nigeria, and they are like the leaders on this continent. Whatever happens in Ghana affects the rest of the continent. It affects people are looking up to Ghana to lead the way. And there's an interesting happening within the Sahel. You go to Ghana's neighbors, Burkina Faso, you go to the Ivory Coast, you go to Togo, and jihadis are operating in these areas. You go a little further, Mali, Niger, and there's trouble. They have cut back on democratic gains that they have made over the years with military regimes as a result of the jihadi operations going on there. And they have been trying to drive out the French colonial masters. And so there were fears that Ghana may tilt towards that dimension if care is not taken. But once again, Ghanaians have proven that it is very possible to practice democracy, and the will of the people will be respected, whatever the means possible, whatever the way possible. They have to respect the will of the people, and the people of Ghana have spoken. The institutions have respected this, and there is the chance to also showcase to the world that even a sitting president, a sitting party, a sitting government can lose election. Prior to this election, there were widespread concerns that the Electoral Commission may rig the election in favor of the NPP. But once again, it has been proven that that is not possible. The EC has no choice than to respect the will of the people, and that is what has brought us to this level.
Absolutely. Well, the Nigeria's chairman of the Electoral Commission, INEC, had also congratulated, was also giving his own review and congratulated the winner and commended the election in Ghana. So just like you said, the rest of African countries are also looking towards what had happened in Ghana. So we wish you guys best of luck. Ghana Broadcast, regional journalist, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Murtala Issa, thank you so much for this update. Thank you so much.